And after nearly a 2-month trial with 34 witnesses and hours of salacious testimony, a jury of 8 men and 4 women finds Sean Diddy Combs not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking, but guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
After months of shocking testimony and explosive revelations, the gavel has finally fallen. Sean Diddy Combs, once a music mogul above reproach, has been sentenced. No more delays, no more denials. The verdict is in, and it changes everything. From Kid Cudi's car bombing claims to chilling courtroom confessions, this trial exposed more than just crimes. It revealed a legacy built on fear and control. Though acquitted of the most serious charges, Diddy now faces prison time. Bail? Denied. But this is only the beginning. New lawsuits, fresh accusers, and a stunned family outside the courthouse paint a grim picture. What really happened behind the scenes? And what does this sentence mean for the empire Diddy built? Stay tuned. We're breaking down the entire trial, from the first bombshell to the final goodbye. What's next for P. Diddy? Sentencing, lawsuits, and a new assault allegation. After months of intense media scrutiny and courtroom drama, Sean Diddy Combs walked away from his criminal trial with a mixed verdict. He was acquitted of the most serious charges, racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, but still convicted on 2 counts related to transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution. While some saw the outcome as a partial victory, the consequences he now faces are far from over. Sentencing for Combs is currently scheduled for October 3rd. Meanwhile, the court has repeatedly denied him bail, despite his lawyer's efforts to secure his release after the verdict, leaving the music mogul behind bars as the clock ticks toward Judgment Day. Under the Federal Mann Act, which he was convicted of violating, Diddy faces up to 20 years in prison, 10 years for each count. While prosecutors are reportedly seeking a sentence closer to 46 months, the judge has broad discretion, as there are no mandatory minimums attached to the charges. But legal troubles are only part of the storm circling Combs. Financially, he's staring down a potential government seizure of assets and a cascade of civil lawsuits. Most recently, a new allegation emerged from a former exotic dancer who claims Combs drugged and assaulted him. An incident that allegedly resulted in lost teeth and required gastric surgery. This case adds to a growing list of accusers and civil litigations that threaten both his reputation and his fortune. Former sex crimes prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Matt Murphy offered insight into the case, noting that the RICO charge was always a shaky fit. "This wasn't the mafia. Bad Boy Records is a real business," Murphy explained. "Trying to frame it as a criminal enterprise just didn't work for the jury." He emphasized that the Mann Act, a century-old law originally aimed at curbing prostitution, was far more applicable, but still controversial due to its broad interpretation. Murphy also questioned the prosecution's strategy, suggesting they may have overreached by including multiple witnesses with problematic pasts, instead of narrowing their case to stronger, more credible testimony. "They might be second-guessing themselves for the rest of their careers," he said. At the heart of the issue is a broader debate about justice, power, and accountability. While Combs escaped the most explosive charges, his legal journey is far from over. The next few months could reshape everything, from his freedom to his finances, and ultimately, his legacy. How did Diddy end up here? The road to scandal and legal trouble. To understand the legal storm surrounding Sean Diddy Combs, it's essential to trace how he got to this point. A path that began decades ago with extraordinary fame and power and is now unraveling in public view. Known by many names, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or simply Diddy, Sean Combs built a towering empire in the music industry. As the founder of Bad Boy Records, he launched the careers of iconic artists like the Notorious B.I.G. and became one of hip-hop's most influential figures. His success in the 1990s and early 2000s made him not just a musical tastemaker, but a symbol of wealth and cultural dominance. At one point, his net worth was estimated at over $1 billion, a reflection of the enormous financial and social capital he accumulated over time. Yet for years, rumors swirled behind the scenes. Whispers of violent behavior, industry manipulation, and even connections to darker conspiracy theories followed him. From allegations involving Kid Cudi's car explosion to the persistent, though unproven, rumors surrounding Tupac Shakur's death. Still, none of these shadows ever stuck until 2023. That year, Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura filed a bombshell lawsuit, marking a seismic shift in the public perception of Combs. "After years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story," Cassie declared. "To speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships." Her allegations were disturbing and detailed. According to the suit, not long after they began dating, Combs began drugging her to make her more compliant. She described repeated episodes of physical abuse, claims that he beat her multiple times a year. More horrifyingly, she alleged that he coerced her into having sex with male prostitutes while he watched, filmed, and pleasured himself, actions that suggested a deeply controlling and exploitative dynamic. Cassie painted a picture of a man who not only dominated her personally, but also professionally. Diddy managed her career, paid for her apartment and clothes, controlled her transportation, and even had access to her medical records. Any disobedience, she claimed, was met with threats, particularly threats to derail her music career unless she remained silent and compliant. The downfall of Diddy, from settlement to indictment. The lawsuit filed by Cassie Ventura in 2023 sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Though the case was settled privately and never made it to trial, the implications were clear. To many observers, the swift settlement read less like a resolution and more like damage control, an attempt by Sean Diddy Combs to keep explosive allegations from playing out in a public courtroom. But the Cassie case was just the beginning. The settlement seemed to spark a flood of new legal actions against Combs. Over the following months, he became the target of an avalanche of lawsuits, alleging everything from abuse and sexual assault to intimidation and trafficking. At one point, Diddy was named in what sources described as hundreds of civil suits, painting a disturbing portrait of long-term systemic misconduct. Despite the mounting accusations and the media firestorm, Combs remained legally unscathed for a while. That changed dramatically when federal agents raided his homes. In a rare joint operation, Homeland Security Investigations executed raids on multiple Diddy properties, with agents from New York, Los Angeles, and Miami involved. In a brief statement, they confirmed the actions were part of an ongoing investigation, though details were initially sparse. During the raid, Combs' sons, Justin and Christian, were also reportedly detained in handcuffs, suggesting the investigation had serious weight behind it. Around the same time, the public got its first undeniable piece of evidence. CNN obtained and released surveillance footage showing Combs physically assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway. The graphic video, showing him shoving and kicking her, left little to interpretation and sent shockwaves across the internet. In response, Combs released a public apology. "So difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. I hit rock bottom," he admitted. "My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm committed to becoming a better man." But the apology would not be enough to stop what came next. In September 2024, the situation escalated dramatically when federal authorities arrested and indicted Diddy. The charges were staggering. According to the indictment, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that weaponized his vast business empire to commit crimes including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Prosecutors alleged that Combs systematically abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him, not only to satisfy his own desires, but to protect his public image and conceal the truth. To do so, he reportedly enlisted his employees and used his companies to create a sprawling criminal network. The indictment detailed years of physical abuse. From 2009 onward, Combs allegedly struck, punched, dragged, kicked, and threw objects at women. Acts of violence carried out behind the veil of fame, luxury, and power. Inside the trial, how Diddy's empire became a federal case. Federal prosecutors are painting a damning portrait of Sean Diddy Combs and his business empire, Combs Enterprises, not as a music and entertainment juggernaut, but as a criminal organization. According to the indictment, many of his employees weren't just passive bystanders. They were actively involved in helping conceal his alleged crimes. Authorities claim these employees participated in, or attempted to engage in, a long list of serious offenses, including trafficking, forced labor, transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution, coercion, drug distribution, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Bull. At the heart of the case lies one of the most disturbing allegations, the so-called freak-offs. These were wild, drug-fueled parties that allegedly lasted for days and, according to multiple witnesses, involved the use of narcotics and coercion to force both men and women into sexual acts. The government alleges that these events weren't just hedonistic excess. They were part of a broader system of abuse and control designed to satisfy Combs' personal desires while silencing potential threats to his reputation. Based on these accusations, the U.S. Attorney has brought 3 primary charges against Diddy: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation for the purpose of prostitution. The full indictment includes more disturbing details, many of which have been examined in previous media reports. But as the trial unfolds, the situation is becoming even more dire for Combs. The trial begins. Facing federal indictment is no small matter. When prosecutors bring charges at this level, it's usually because they believe they have enough evidence to secure a conviction, and the odds are not in the defendant's favor. As the trial got underway, things only got worse for Diddy. A long list of witnesses began coming forward, many of whom were described as credible and compelling. Their testimonies painted a chilling picture of systemic abuse, and the emerging narrative suggested that Combs' empire had long been a facade for something much darker. Unlike many high-profile state-level trials, there are no live streams or video recordings here. Federal criminal proceedings ban electronic media coverage, so the public has only had access to courtroom sketches and written reports. At one point, Diddy's legal team tried to argue for a mistrial, but that request was quickly denied. As of now, Combs is facing 5 serious federal charges. 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, which carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, each with a mandatory minimum of 15 years and a maximum of life. 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, each carrying up to 10 years. Inside Diddy's defense. Sean Diddy Combs' legal team, now featuring Brian Steele, the high-profile attorney who gained viral attention during Young Thug's trial, is mounting a vigorous defense against a long list of disturbing allegations. From the outset, Combs has denied all charges, rejecting any plea deal, and arguing that the accusations misrepresent consensual acts and mutual conflict. One of the defense's central arguments centers on Cassie Ventura, Combs' longtime former partner and the lead accuser in the case. They claim the relationship involved mutual violence, not one-sided abuse. Cassie, they argue, was not a passive victim, but a strong, capable woman who sometimes initiated physical confrontations. The defense has worked to frame her not as someone coerced, but as someone fully aware and complicit. But as the trial progresses, disturbing details have emerged from the raid on Diddy's homes, details that prosecutors say reveal a much darker truth. Federal agents reportedly found 2 AR-15-style rifles with serial numbers scratched off, a massive cache of sex toys, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil or lubricant scattered across multiple properties. They also uncovered a fully loaded handgun hidden in luggage, as well as a wide variety of drugs, including pills, marijuana, powders, and narcotics prosecutors claim were used to subdue and control women during the infamous freak-offs. Diddy's defense downplayed the findings. Baby oil isn't illegal, one attorney remarked. Everything that happened was consensual. They also argued that the firearms were disassembled and inoperable, a point the prosecution swiftly dismissed, insisting that the proximity of the weapons, drugs, and sex paraphernalia painted a picture of intimidation, not consent. Prosecutors contend that these materials were tools of control, used to coerce participation in multi-day, drug-fueled sex parties, where the lines between pleasure and abuse were blurred, often violently. At the center of the government's case are 4 key victims, with Cassie serving as the trial's most prominent and emotionally powerful witness. Having dated Diddy on and off for over a decade, after initially signing with his label, she says she experienced firsthand the gradual escalation from affection to violence. In heartbreaking testimony, Cassie described how the relationship turned dark, Diddy, she said, became increasingly controlling, issuing threats when she didn't obey and forcing her to take part in freak-offs. She detailed multiple incidents of physical abuse, including the one captured in hotel surveillance footage, where Combs was seen shoving, kicking, and dragging her. When I chose to leave, Cassie told the court, I grabbed what I could and I got out. And Sean followed me into the hallway before the elevators and grabbed me up, threw me on the ground, kicked me, tried to drag me back into my room. The defense has attempted to discredit her account by citing thousands of messages exchanged between the two over the years, many of which were read aloud during cross-examination. Their argument: Cassie was not only willing but enthusiastic about their dynamic. In early messages, she wrote things like, I love you so much it consumes my life. One particularly controversial exchange introduced by defense attorney Ana Estavo included, Ventura, I'm always ready to freak off. Combs, I can't wait to watch you. Ventura, me too. I just want to be uncontrollable. As the defense worked to reshape the narrative in Sean Diddy Combs' trial, attempting to cast his relationship with Cassie Ventura as consensual and even affectionate, Ventura made it clear she wasn't willing to let her words be twisted. One of the messages the defense presented was a text Cassie sent to Combs. I miss you. I miss our lovemaking sessions in the afternoons. When asked if she was referring to the infamous freak-offs, Ventura responded simply, not necessarily. She went on to testify that despite that message, sent in 2016, she was living through a period of emotional turmoil. That same year, she claims, Combs struck her in the face. Despite the violence, she admitted to trying to rekindle their relationship. But as she made clear on the stand, attempting to reconnect with someone emotionally does not mean consenting to abuse. The prosecution then called several key witnesses, each offering deeply unsettling testimony that supported Cassie's claims. One of the most striking accounts came from Israel Flores, a hotel security guard. He testified that in 2016, he responded to a report of a woman in distress and found Diddy and Cassie inside an elevator. The best way I can describe it, he said, was like a devilish stare. He was just looking at me. Flores claimed that after the incident, Diddy offered him a large bribe to stay quiet, but he refused. Then came Daniel Phillip, a male escort who testified that he was often paid by Diddy to have sex with Cassie, while Diddy watched and pleasured himself. But Daniel said what stuck with him most wasn't the arrangement. It was the violence he witnessed. He described one night when Diddy emerged from a room enraged. I saw a bottle fly past her and hit the wall, Daniel recalled. Then he grabbed her by the hair and started dragging her into the bedroom. Cassie was yelling, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Then I heard what sounded like someone being slapped and thrown around the room. Daniel admitted he had been too afraid to speak up at the time. You don't go against someone like him, he said. Another voice supporting Cassie's testimony came from Dawn Richard, former member of the girl group Danity Kane, which was formed under Diddy's label. Dawn said she witnessed several troubling moments, including one shocking episode during a casual morning. She recalled Diddy coming downstairs in a fury, shouting about breakfast. Where the fudge is my egg? You never get anything right! She said he then grabbed a skillet full of eggs and tried to hit Cassie over the head with it. Cassie collapsed to the floor. Dawn also described seeing Diddy strike Cassie in public, including once during a dinner attended by Usher, Ne-Yo, and music executive Jimmy Iovine. While all these allegations remain legally unconfirmed, and the defense has pushed back hard, there's no denying the weight of the testimony. Multiple witnesses, all with different relationships to Diddy, have described variations of the same pattern: control, coercion, violence. The dark side of Diddy, witnesses speak out. As Sean Diddy Combs' legal battle unfolds, the courtroom has become a stage for harrowing testimony. From close friends to former employees, a growing list of voices is emerging, each one adding weight to the allegations of abuse, coercion, and control. One of the most striking accounts came from Carrie Morgan, a close friend of Cassie Ventura. Morgan testified to witnessing two violent incidents, one in the Hollywood Hills, another on a trip to Jamaica. She described one night when Cassie's screams led her to a hallway. The hallway was extremely long, she said, and they were coming out of the master bedroom. He was dragging her by her hair on the floor. Carrie admitted she eventually distanced herself from Cassie after Diddy allegedly choked and hit her as well. She also revealed she accepted $30,000 in hush money from Combs after threatening legal action, a decision she now regrets. Cassie's own mother also took the stand. She testified that Diddy had threatened to release private tapes of her daughter, and she presented photographs of Cassie with visible injuries, which she claims were inflicted by Combs. Then came testimony from another male escort, who, notably, goes by the nickname The Punisher. While his name raised a few eyebrows, his story echoed that of other witnesses. When asked whether Cassie seemed comfortable during the encounters, he said, "Apart from some flinching, she seemed fine." But beneath the surface, the damage ran deep. According to attorney Andrew Van Arsdale, who represents survivors of abuse, at least 37 new cases have been filed as part of the ongoing investigation into Combs. One client claims she was just 15 years old when the abuse occurred. Many of these individuals say they've lived in fear for decades, afraid of what Combs might do to them professionally, personally, or legally. Among the most emotionally charged testimonies came from Phil Pines, Diddy's former personal assistant, who worked closely with the star between 2019 and 2021. Pines described how Combs would repeatedly test his loyalty, leading up to an incident that continues to haunt him. One night, Pines recalled, Combs handed him a condom, rubbed his shoulders, and pushed him toward a female guest. "I froze," he said. "I looked at her and asked, 'Are you okay with this?' She said yes. So I performed briefly. As soon as I realized he wasn't watching, I pulled up my pants and ran." "I felt powerless," Pines admitted, "like I couldn't say no." That same feeling of powerlessness was echoed by Sarah Rivers, a former contestant on Diddy's MTV reality show Making the Band. She recalled an incident on set where, away from the cameras, Combs allegedly cornered her. "He burst out of the studio door," she testified. "He asked me how I was doing, then ran his hand down my breast. He said, 'If you need anything at all, you let me know.'" She fled the studio in a panic. "I didn't ask for that. I didn't approve of it. And I didn't think anyone would believe me." Years later, she says, the consequences of refusing him became clear. "I was blacklisted," she said. "My career was over." Choking back tears, Sarah shared the lasting impact of that moment. "People don't understand what it's like when something you love is taken from you, discarded like it never mattered. And then they move on with their lives, but you're stuck. You're still stuck, 21 years later." Though Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denies any wrongdoing, Van Arsdale believes this is just the beginning. "We have hundreds more lawsuits being prepared," he said. "If he's found guilty in the federal trial, I believe many more people will come forward." As for Phil Pines, the experience led him into a deep depression, but now he's speaking out, hoping to help others find the courage to do the same. "Telling my story is like therapy. There's power in it," he said. "Diddy is one of the most charismatic people you'll ever meet. But there's a dark side to him. And I lived in that darkness for 2 years. I hope no one else ever has to." When asked what justice would look like, Pines didn't hesitate. "Jail time. Everyone has their day, and he has to pay for that." Diddy's family reacts after split verdict in federal trial. After nearly 2 months of dramatic testimony, 34 witnesses, and hours of graphic and emotional details laid bare in court, the jury finally delivered its decision in the federal case against Sean Diddy Combs. A panel of 8 men and 4 women found Combs not guilty on the most serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. However, they did find him guilty on 2 counts of transporting individuals across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. The courtroom fell tense as the verdict was read, but outside the courthouse, Combs' family erupted in celebration. His son, Christian Combs, visibly emotional, spoke to reporters. "We love y'all. We love everybody watching. So happy. New beginnings. God bless." The verdict, while partial, still leaves Combs facing serious consequences. The judge is currently deliberating on whether the music mogul will be released ahead of sentencing. Combs' defense team argued that since he was acquitted of the most serious charges, he should be allowed to go home. Prosecutors, however, pushed back, citing him as a flight risk and emphasizing that he still faces up to 20 years in prison on the charges he was convicted of. Outside the courthouse, ABC's Rena Roy reported that the Combs family van returned shortly after court adjourned, presumably to await the judge's ruling. The deadline for both legal teams to submit their final arguments on pre-sentencing release had just passed, adding to the anticipation. Legal analyst Bernarda Villalona explained that if Combs remains in custody, he'll receive credit for time already served, approximately 9 months. Though each count carries a maximum sentence of 10 years, Villalona noted it's unlikely the judge will impose the maximum. He could get probation, time served, or a sentence of 1 to 3 years, she said. As the legal world assesses the outcome, the entertainment world must also grapple with what this means for Combs' legacy. Kelly Carter, senior entertainment reporter, weighed in. "There's no way around it. This changes the way people talk about him," she said. "Yes, he's been a pop culture icon for over 3 decades. He's touched music, fashion, television, spirits, even politics. But now, this case and what came out during the trial, particularly that disturbing hotel surveillance video, will forever be part of his story." Prosecutors also responded to the verdict. While disappointed that Combs was acquitted on the racketeering and sex trafficking charges, they made clear they intend to pursue a significant prison sentence for the convictions. In a statement, they thanked the victims for their bravery, especially Cassie Ventura, the prosecution's key witness and Combs' ex-girlfriend. Cassie's attorney also spoke after court. "We're proud of her courage," he said. "She's in a good place, and pleased that Combs was finally held accountable for at least some of his actions." He added, "Of course, we would have liked a full conviction, but we understand the burden of proof is high. What matters is that this marks the first time he's been held criminally responsible." Cassie's case has paved the way for others. Combs is still facing over 60 civil lawsuits, many of which echo similar claims of abuse, coercion, and exploitation. The legal battles are far from over. Looking ahead, legal experts believe this trial may have broader implications. Villalona suggested that the verdict might lead prosecutors to rethink how they apply racketeering laws. RICO statutes were designed to dismantle organized crime, mob bosses, gangs, not necessarily individuals using their businesses for personal misconduct, she explained. This case might force a recalibration of how these laws are interpreted in future trials. P. Diddy faces federal pressure again. Ahead of sentencing, the legal saga of Sean Diddy Combs is far from over. Though a verdict has already been handed down in his high-profile federal trial, the case continues to evolve, with new developments including a finalized sentencing date, more civil accusations, and even a surprising moment of applause behind bars. After weeks of confusion, Judge Arun Subramanian has now confirmed October 3rd as the official sentencing date for Combs, who was convicted of 2 counts of transportation with intent to engage in prostitution. He was acquitted of the more serious charges, racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking, but the conviction still leaves him facing years in prison. At one point, both defense attorneys and prosecutors had agreed to move up the sentencing to September 22nd, prompting expectations that the hearing would be expedited. However, that plan fell through, and the timeline reverted to October, adding yet another twist in an already chaotic process. Combs' legal team has been pushing for a faster sentencing, hoping to shorten his time in custody. Defense attorney Mark Garagos cited personal reasons in court, noting that the mother of several of Combs' children, Kim Porter, passed away in 2018, leaving his daughters without a parent while he remains in federal detention. Combs has been held without bail since his conviction, adding urgency to the defense's request. Meanwhile, prosecutors have insisted they need adequate time to conduct a full pre-sentencing investigation, a routine process in federal cases. This investigation includes interviews with Combs, his family, friends, and victims, as well as a deep dive into his background, finances, education, and mental health. The resulting report will help the judge determine the appropriate sentence, one that could vary widely. So what does Combs actually face? Prosecutors estimate a sentence in the range of 51 to 63 months, roughly 4 to 5 years in prison. The defense is pushing for significantly less, arguing for 21 to 27 months, or around 1.5 to 2 years. Combs has already spent nearly a year in custody, meaning time served could reduce whatever sentence he receives. Still, the charges carry steep potential penalties. Each count of transporting for prostitution carries a maximum of 10 years, meaning Combs technically faces up to 20 years behind bars. However, legal experts say that's highly unlikely given the facts of the case. Conversely, a sentence of simply time served also seems improbable, considering the multiple incidents involving Cassie Ventura and another woman referred to as Jane, as well as alleged interstate sex trafficking involving male participants. Prosecutors may cite these as aggravating factors during sentencing. And just when it seemed the headlines might cool off, Combs was hit with a new civil lawsuit, adding to the dozens he already faces. One juror from the trial also spoke out anonymously, suggesting that although the jury couldn't unanimously agree on racketeering or sex trafficking, many believed the government had proven a pattern of disturbing behavior. Back inside the Metropolitan Detention Center, Combs reportedly received a standing ovation from fellow inmates after the verdict. Whether out of celebrity recognition or solidarity, the moment highlights the surreal nature of his fall from music mogul to federal defendant. While Combs maintains his innocence and continues to deny all wrongdoing, the October sentencing will mark a major turning point. Whether he walks free, receives a lighter sentence, or is ordered to serve years behind bars, this case is likely just the beginning of a long legal journey, especially with over 60 civil lawsuits still pending. The man who once ruled the charts now awaits a very different kind of judgment. What do you think? Does Diddy deserve a second chance? Or is this goodbye forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more exclusive updates and deep dives into the final chapter of Diddy's rise and fall.